This is the climax of the story. And the lesson here is that God works miraculously, providentially, in ways that are not obvious to a casual observer, but clear and revealed to the eyes of faith. But God delivers at the last minute. He is a last minute deliverer. One of the best ways to understand that is actually through this passage in Esther, Esther chapter 9, 1 to 4. On the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, the edict commanded by the king was to be carried out. On this day, the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them, but now the tables were turned and the Jews got the upper hand over those who hated them. The Jews assembled in their cities in all the provinces of King Xerxes to attack those determined to destroy them. No one could stand against them because the people of all the other nationalities were afraid of them. And all the nobles of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and the king's administrators helped the Jews because fear of Mordecai had seized them. Mordecai was prominent in the palace, his reputation spread throughout the provinces, and he became more and more powerful. So the threat of annihilation of the Jewish people was hovering over their heads, but God intervenes. God intervenes through a series of circumstances. He gives the Jewish people enough time to unite as a people, to prepare their defense. And then God is raising up defense for the Jewish people from completely unexpected quarters. The royal officials, the administrators themselves, on account of Mordecai, have become the defenders. People who once would not have hesitated to turn against the Jews now become their defenders. So God is waiting until the very end. If God wanted, he could have instantly destroyed the edict, or he could have kept the edict from happening. It could have been a different story, but here we find that there is a build-up, and God is waiting until the very end, right? And his patience serves a number of purposes. His patience gives the people of God opportunities to unite, to reflect, to strengthen weaknesses in their lives, but it's also a measure of graciousness to those who do evil. It is a time for them to repent, to consider the course of their lives, the consequences of their actions. So God is not unjust or unfair. He does not want anyone to perish, but he is patient. And his patience can sometimes trick people into thinking that there is no justice, that God is not going to judge evildoers. But look at the beautiful description in chapter 9. On this day, the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them, but now the tables were turned. The English rendering does not quite describe the magnificence in Hebrew. In Hebrew, the term is hāphakh. It is much richer. It describes a total overthrow, turning over of events, like a complete reversal, flipping over of a situation, right? So it is described in the Old Testament. It is used in several other events. For example, the total overthrow of the city of Sodom, if you know that story. Or it is also used for emotional reversals. David, who was mourning, his mourning is turned into dancing. It is also used to describe inner transformation. Saul turned into another man. There was a transformation that happened in his heart. So in all of these descriptions, it is not merely a human act, or it is not a human act, it is divine. Divine intervention is being implied in the use of the term hāphakh. The tables were turned. Events are turned in a way that humans did not orchestrate. Think about this particular instance, right? Could humans have engineered so many events so that even the die could fall on a certain day? Certainly not. No human being, even King Xerxes himself, there is no one who is that powerful. But every twist and turn None of these are haphazard mistakes, accidents. God can make, a very, very messy situation into one that is good for his people. We only need to trust him. And that actually relieves us, right? We don't have to know the end result of everything, but simply trust that if an event has happened, God is in control. Now, I can play a role in being willing to be used by God exactly as Esther did. But never be surprised when God, keeps his rescue to the very last minute. God is a last minute deliverer. It is seen in various events in the Bible. God rescues at the very last minute. That's the way his providence works. And we are to trust in him to know that whatever God did in pivotal historical events, God is merciful to do even in our lives, to orchestrate similar last minute rescues. And in that, there should be great hope for us.